The cowboy begged, "Can you try just once?" "I'll pay anything. Can you nurse him just for once?" The obese girl held the baby close, and the Saturday market smelt of fresh bread and cruelty. Nora set up loaves on her wooden table, her hands moving quickly and practicedly. Customers bought without looking at her. Coins dropped. Bread was taken. No eye contact. No thank you. Just silence. She had been doing this for 6 weeks, since her husband's death, since the boarding house took her in and called it charity. The other vendors didn't talk to her. The customers pretended she didn't exist until the screaming began. A man, broad-shouldered, unshaven, and with crazy eyes from exhaustion, staggered into the square as the crowd parted, desperately dying. He had a dark stain on his shirt. He was holding a small bundle and his hands trembled. "Please, the baby is too little and motionless." His voice broke. "Someone please assist. She refuses to eat." 3 days now. Women took a step back. Men looked away. The infant's wail was hardly audible. At last, someone inquired about Fading's mother. The man's jaw tightened. 3 weeks ago, she passed away during childbirth. The crowd erupted in gasps. I visited all 3 counties' wet nurses. Every single one of them declined. 2 women were whispering loudly enough to be heard near the vegetable stall. The person who punched the preacher is Thomas Hayes. Got into a brawl last week at the saloon. I've heard that he has a fiery temper, unable to manage it. Because no one would assist, his wife passed away. Town concluded he wasn't worth the hassle. Given the way he behaves, he now expects us to nurse his child. The woman looked aside. Others came after. Every word was heard by Thomas. He clenched his fists, his features blazed with rage. However, the rage turned to despair when he gazed down at his daughter's grey complexion and feeble breathing. "Please," he muttered. "She's going to die. I have no idea what else to do." On a loaf of bread, Nora's hands froze. She witnessed the tiny infant struggle. Before she had even inhaled, she saw her own daughter silent in her arms, gone. The herb vendor, old Martha, moved forward. She gestured to Nora across the square. The widow in question lost her own child a month ago. "She may still be drinking milk." Everybody looked around. With heavy boots and a desperate expression, Thomas traversed the square. He came to a halt before her table. She could see the weariness etched on his face, the barely restrained anger, and the anguish engulfing him up close. "Would you please nurse her just once?" "Anything is fine with me." Nora stared at the infant who was dying. Laughter broke out behind her before she could say anything. 3 boarding house women. The obese widow. Are you asking her? Not even her own infant could survive. Constructed in that manner, she yet lost her kid. She is cursed. Perhaps her weight suffocated it. Laughter broke out throughout the bazaar. Thomas whirled in their direction. He raised his fist. Nora took hold of his arm. "Avoid doing so," he froze. "Take a look at her." Beneath her hand, his arm quivered with barely restrained violence. She muttered, "They're not worth it." His fist relaxed slowly. He looked back at Nora. "Will you help?" She gazed at Thomas's anxious eyes as she examined the infant. 2 streets over is the boarding home where I reside. Take her over there." His face lit up with relief. "You'll make an effort." "I'll attempt it." As if he had been holding his breath for days, Thomas let out a breath. "I'm grateful." The whispers erupted behind them. "He's going to her room with her." A big widow, who is unmarried, shameless and desperate, is hurling herself at the first man who sees her. Nora didn't turn around. She began to walk after packing her unsold bread. Thomas trailed closely behind. He paused at the steps of the boarding house. "I have no idea what your name is. Nora, Hayes, Thomas. I appreciate you staying put." The girls from the boarding house observed from the kitchen doorway. Thomas followed Nora up the small steps to her attic room. Whispers trailed behind them. "Give it a full hour. He'll return by himself. In any case, the infant will most likely die." Nora shut the door. She had a little room. A wooden chair, a broken mirror, and a single bed. Thomas appeared disoriented as he stood in the middle with his daughter. "Sit," Nora whispered. She grabbed the chair. Thomas bent down next to her. Nora took the infant with caution. Too light, too light. The infant was breathing shallowly and had closed eyes. After unbuttoning her dress, Nora held the infant close to her chest. Nothing happened at first. She had nearly run out of milk. The infant's mouth moved feebly. Attempting, failing. Nora whispered, "Come on. Please try." At last, she latched and took a sip. Thomas let out a noise, half gasp, half sob. "She is consuming alcohol. She's drinking, oh my goodness." His face was wet with tears. He did not remove them with a wipe. Nora stopped crying herself. Her body produced milk for a baby who would never swallow it for 3 weeks. Because of her, a baby was now alive. Thomas fell to the ground next to the chair. His shoulders trembled. Like Sarah, I believed I had lost her. I believed that everything was being taken by God. Nora remained silent. Simply amazing. Allow the infant to drink. The sun was moving across the sky outside. 3 broken persons experienced their first moment of calm indoors. The baby's color changed when she eventually quit drinking. Her breathing was deeper, and she was pink rather than gray. Thomas raised his gaze to Nora. "You saved her life." With caution, Nora returned the infant. "In a few hours, she will need to feed once more. Can I get her back?" Nora paused. The matron of the boarding house would be enraged. The infant was alive, despite the girl's constant mockery of her. Indeed. As he stood, Thomas held his daughter close to his chest. "I'll return before dusk." At the door, he hesitated. "Regarding you, they were mistaken. The market's women. You're not under a curse." Nora cast a downward glance. "You are unaware of that." "I do indeed. Since my daughter is still alive, it's not a curse either. It's a miracle." He departed. In her tiny chamber, Nora sat by herself. She could hear the boarding home girls chatting and giggling outside, anticipating her failure. However, Nora didn't feel helpless for the first time in 6 weeks. Today she had saved a life, and Thomas Hayes would return the following day. He needed her not because he had to. Perhaps that was sufficient. At dusk, Thomas came back. When he knocked, the girls from the boarding home were gathering in the kitchen. "But it's urgent." As Nora responded, they dispersed to observe through doors. With the infant in his arms, Thomas stood on the porch. His daughter appeared more attractive. "Cheeks are pink." More powerful scream. He said, "She's hungry again." Nora cast a quick glance to the girls who were observing from the shadows, judging with keen eyes. She moved to the side. "Enter." The whispers began right away. "Today is the second time. This is not appropriate at all." She's essentially hurling herself at him. Once more, Nora guided Thomas upstairs. The weight of their stairs made every stride feel more difficult. Thomas sat on the floor with his back to the wall while she fed the infant in her chamber. "I need to ask you something," he said. Nora raised her head. "Come spend a few weeks at my ranch till she gains strength. I'll give you a fair salary. Give you a room of your own." Nora's hands became motionless. "I can no longer do this by myself, Thomas. I ride here twice a day. The ranch is collapsing. Since Sarah passed away, I haven't slept for longer than an hour at a time." When he said his wife's name, his voice broke. "I require assistance. Not only with her, but with everything." Nora cast a satisfied glance down at the nursing infant. "The town will converse. They are already. It will worsen. I don't care what they say anymore." Thomas bent over. "This town concluded I wasn't worth helping, which led to my wife's death. They are free to think as they like. I want to ask you, are you going to come?" Nora considered her room in the attic, the loneliness, the taunting. She considered that she had nowhere else to go. "I'll be there." Thomas let out a sigh of relief. "I'm grateful." The following morning, Nora packed a Bible, her mother's hairbrush, 1 extra dress, and her little bag. As she descended the stairs, the boarding house girls lined the corridor, taking the irate rancher to the playhouse. "In a week, he will send you back. Every time fat chicks are turned back." From the kitchen, the matron emerged. "So you're heading out?" "Indeed, ma'am. 3 months' worth of lodging and board are due." 50. Nora felt sick to her stomach. The debt had slipped her mind. "When I can, I will pay it." "You have 2 options. Either pay it now or wait until it's resolved." With the infant in his arms, Thomas emerged in the doorway. "What is the amount she owes?" The matron's eyes shone. $50. Without hesitation, Thomas took out his wallet, counted the money, and gave them to the recipient. 60. That reimburses you for the trouble and settles her debt. The matrons gazed at the cash. Thomas looked across at Nora. "You're at liberty. Come on." A wagon was waiting outside. After assisting Nora, Thomas gave her the infant and then ascended himself. Nora heard the girls' voices fade behind them as they rolled away. Did he just settle her debt? For her, 16? Perhaps he is indeed in a difficult situation. The wagon passed through the town. People whispered and gazed. Nora's gaze remained forward. She muttered, "They're going to make your life difficult." Thomas clenched his jaw. "They have already done so. The day they let my wife to pass away." For a while they rode silently. Then Thomas spoke once more. "There is not much on the ranch. It's disorganized. I haven't had time to stay current. I'm able to assist with it." He gave her a quick look. "Instead of having you clean my house, I'm employing you to take care of Grace. I understand, but I need to feel like I'm useful for more than just my body." With comprehension in his eyes, Thomas nodded slowly. Over the hill, the ranch emerged, larger than Nora had anticipated. The substantial house, the barn, and the clean fences. But she noticed it as they approached. The garden is overgrown, the hens are running wild, and the laundry is stacked on the porch. The ranch was gradually fading. Thomas noticed that she was staring. "I'm aware of how awful it is. It's not that horrible. It's sadness." After stopping the wagon, he turned to face her. "Really?" Looked. "The kitchen is not in your room." It was the room for hired hands. "It features an internal lock. I'm grateful." There was mayhem inside the house. There are stacks of dishes everywhere, dust every surface. The main room was filled with baby items, but the bones were in good condition. Robust wood, large windows, a fireplace made of stone. She was shown to her room by Thomas. Little but tidy, an actual bed, a window with a view of the pasture. "It's perfect," Nora remarked. After tending to Grace that night, Nora was unable to resist. She swept the floors, folded the laundry stacked on the table, and cleaned the dishes. After feeding the horses, Thomas entered and paused in the doorway. "That was not necessary for you to accomplish. I'm aware. For Grace, I hired you." Nora continued to fold. "I have to go to work. It's the only thing that prevents me from thinking about my kid." Beside her, Thomas began drying dishes with a rag. They were silent while they worked, side by side. Thomas made coffee once the kitchen was tidy. Without asking, place a cup in front of Nora. "Thank you," she murmured. "You're skilled at this. Taking care of things. Before she passed away, my mother taught me." "And your husband?" Nora's hands on her coffee cup became motionless. "I learnt from him that not all men are good." Thomas fell silent. "I apologize. It's now over. He is no longer there." As night fell outside, they sat in cozy solitude. Between them, Grace dozed off in her cradle. Thomas's home didn't feel empty for the first time since Sarah passed away. Nora felt like she belonged for the first time since her baby passed away. The ranch outside fell silent in the evening. 3 broken people started to mend inside. 2 weeks went by. Grace flourishes. Her cheeks became fuller. Her sobs became more intense. Every day she put on weight. Nora, however, saw everything else. The chicken coop was crumbling. Stressed and not laying, hens were strewn all over the place. Any beneficial plants were being choked out by the overgrowth of weeds in the garden. Near the north pasture, the fence sagged dangerously. Good hay was ruined by a leak in the barn roof. Thomas was a single man doing the work of 2 people, but he worked from dawn till dusk. Nora went to the chicken coop one morning after tending to Grace. It was a catastrophe. Rotten straw and broken nesting boxes. It makes sense why the hens weren't laying. She started working after finding tools in the barn. Thomas arrived in search of her 2 hours later. He came to a complete stop. Nora was hammering new slats into place while covered in feathers and dirt. The coop was thoroughly cleaned. There are fresh straws everywhere. The hens appeared more at ease already. "What are you doing?" "Repairing your coop, eh?" "I was going to address it. I understand, but you're doing the work of 3 people." She pounded one more nail. "And I am here and I'm capable of working." Thomas saw her do the last fix. "Where did you acquire your carpentry skills?" "Before he passed away, my father taught me. A man informed me that women shouldn't handle tools before I was married." She got up and cleaned her clothing of grime. Thomas, I'm not powerless. I'm not worthless just because I'm large. Thomas moved in closer. I never considered you to be worthless. Their gazes locked. There was a change in the atmosphere between them. Nora continued in a softer voice. The hens will lay again now. By tomorrow, you'll have eggs. She began to move by him and said, "Thank you." He grasped her wrist. "You don't owe me this labor, and it's gentle rather than domineering." "I am aware, so why?" His hand on her wrist caught her attention. "Scarred. I'm needed for more than just my body, for the first time in my life. I work so you need me. Because I'm competent." Her voice faltered. "Since you are able to see me." Thomas's hold relaxed, but remained firm. "Yes, I do see you." They remained in that position for a considerable amount of time. Then from within the home came Grace's shriek. The moment came to an end. Thomas let go of her wrist. "I'll acquire her." With her heart racing, Nora watched him leave. She worked on the garden the following day. 2 males arrived as she was kneeling and plucking weeds. Thomas had recruited ranch workers to fix fences. They got off their horses and approached Thomas near the stable. Their voices could be heard, but Nora continued to work. "Have you gotten some assistance, boss?" "Yes, I do. She is a large woman. She probably consumes more than she's worth," laughing. Thomas became motionless. "What were you saying?" The chuckles stopped. "Nothing, Supervisor. Merely striking up a discussion. Talking about the woman who saved my daughter's life. We didn't mean to leave my property." "What? I was heard. Now leave my property." "Thomas, hurry up." "We weren't serious." Thomas moved in closer. His tone became menacing. "On my territory you insult her. I'm your boss. Don't return." After exchanging glances, the men got on their horses and rode away. With trembling hands, Nora stood slowly. Once more he stood up for her. Grace spat milk on Nora's dress that night. "Her one and only nice dress?" Thomas said, "I'll help you clean it. You are welcome to wear one of Sarah's old outfits while it dries." At the wash basin, they collaborate. Water. They both froze as their hands moved across the fabric and their fingers made contact. Neither withdrew. Her knuckles were touched by Thomas's thumb. Deliberate Nora, indeed. But Grace began to wail from her crib before he could say anything. The moment broke. Thomas took a step back. "I ought to acquire her." "Indeed." Nora sat on the porch stairs that night because she couldn't sleep. Behind her, the door opened. Thomas took a seat next to her. He was close enough for her to sense his warmth. He said, "Can't sleep?" "Too much on my mind." They gazed at the skies while sitting in cozy stillness. "My wife died hating me," Thomas abruptly declared. Nora faced him. "She didn't truly despise me, but she passed away in fear. He got into a fight with the preacher the week before, so the midwife refused to attend. He had made a hurtful remark about Sarah. I became enraged and struck him." His voice became hollow. "Thus no one would show up when Sarah went into labor. She begged me to halt the anguish for hours. I was powerless as I grasped her hand. Sarah had already left when Grace eventually arrived." He gazed at his hands. "I sometimes believe that in those final moments, she placed the blame on me. For having this community despise us enough to allow her to perish, for my rage." Without thinking, Nora took his hand. "She wasn't killed by you. This community did. I ought to have kept my temper in check. Additionally, the pastor ought to have restrained his brutality." She gave his hand a squeeze. "You're not the villain, Thomas." Between them, silence fell. Nora muttered, "My husband didn't die in an accident." Thomas gave her a look. "He was inebriated. His horse refused to move, so he beat it. He was kicked in the head by the horse. Everyone referred to it as tragedy, but I was aware of the reality. In the same manner that he defeated me, he defeated the horse." Her tone remained steady. "A month after his death, our baby was born, blue and mute from birth." She had the cord around her neck. "According to the midwife, it simply occurs. However, I questioned whether something inside of me was harmed by all the times he struck me during my pregnancy." Thomas gently moved her face to face him. "Your infant wasn't killed by you. It was fate. Not you, though. How are you able to know, since you were able to save my—" Something inside of her was shattered by the words. They started crying. That's how they sat until the stars started to fade. Together, two shattered individuals discover they might become whole once more. Nora has been at the ranch for 3 weeks. Grace was doing well. Strong lungs, pink cheeks, and little fists grasping onto everything. Under Nora's supervision, the ranch had changed. Vegetables grown in a garden. Every day, chickens lay eggs. Fences remain sturdy. The residence is tidy and cozy. Everything appeared more favorable. However, the community was conversing. 3 women from the town arrived in a carriage one afternoon. Thomas was out inspecting the fence line to the north. When they got there, Nora was plucking weeds in the garden. The boarding house's Mrs. Henderson, the wife of the pastor. Nora didn't recognize another woman. Nora, Mrs. Henderson gave a lovely call. Too lovely. Nora brushed dirt from her clothing as she arose slowly. "We have come to talk to Mr. Hayes. Is he present?" "He works the grassland towards the north." "I'm sorry." The wife of the preacher came forward. "In reality, we came to warn him about you." Nora felt her stomach constrict. The woman went on, "The entire town is talking. A guy and an unmarried lady living together. It is humiliating and sinful." Silently, Nora murmured, "I have my own room." "That is irrelevant. Appearances are important, and this seems to be completely incorrect." Mrs. Henderson moved in a predator-like circle. "Our purpose is to return you to the boarding house before you destroy what little reputation he still has, for everyone's sake. I will not return. There's nothing you can do. You still owe." "My obligation was settled by Thomas." "You are aware of that?" The preacher's wife snapped. "Then you're living here as his mistress." Thus, the word was like a smack to Nora. Hoof beats thundered up the road before she could reply. 3 weeks prior, Thomas had dismissed 2 ranch workers. They brought their horses close to the garden, swaying in their saddles, both intoxicated and furious. "Well, well," one of them muttered. The Obese had company. With a gasp, the women retreated in the direction of their carriage. "But Thomas isn't present, is he?" With a small stumble, the man dismounted. "Only you, by myself." The other man also descended. "We came to collect what was due to us. Because of you, the boss dismissed us. Cost us money and salary." Nora turned to face the home and said, "I'll pay you to leave. Money is not what we want." The first man smiled, flashing his yellow teeth. "We're looking for payment." He made a leap for her. Nora let out a scream. The man brutally grabbed her arm. There was a hint of whiskey in his breath. "Give me up. Not until we receive the money that is due." The air was broken by a gunshot. Everybody froze. With his weapon lifted and his eyes full of wrath, Thomas stood 20 feet away. "Don't touch her." Nora was instantly freed by the ranch worker. "Raise your hands." "Boss, we were just chatting." "You made contact with her." Thomas had a lethal calmness in his voice. "Fearful. You touched her with your dirty hands." With his weapon still aimed, he moved cautiously forward. "I warned you not to return here. I warned you about what would occur." Nora's heart was racing. "You must go. Thomas, we will simply now get on your horses. I won't fire a warning shot if I ever see any of you on my property again." He reached for the trigger with his finger. "I'll try to win your hearts." The soldiers quickly mounted their horses and rode off. Thomas carefully lowered the weapon. His hands were trembling. By their carriage, the town women stood still. With a mask of icy rage, Thomas turned to confront them. "They came here because of you." Mrs. Henderson's eyes widened. "We were unaware that they would. You came here to humiliate her and take her away. And those men came to harm her while you were calling her names." He spoke up. "You all need to leave my land." "We only wanted now, Mr. Hayes." Scrambling into their carriage, the women ran away. The ranch was silent. After dropping the rifle, Thomas took 3 long steps across to Nora. "Are you in pain?" "Did they? I'm all right." "You arrived on schedule." His hands cupped her face to look for wounds. "I shouldn't have abandoned you." "Thomas, I ought to have." She took hold of his wrists. "I'm doing fine." She could hardly breathe as he drew her close to his chest. His voice broke as I heard you scream. "Like I lost Sarah, I believed I had lost you." "I'm here," I thought. "I'm secure." They remained in that position for a considerable amount of time. His heart was thumping against her ear. At last, Thomas retreated just enough to give her a quick glance. "I'm no longer able to do this." Nora gasped for air. "What? Acting as though you are merely an employee?" I'm acting as though I only need air and not you. He touched her face with his thumb. Nora, I adore you. I can't keep my affection for you a secret. Her face was filled with tears. I also adore you. Then get married to me. Not in the future, therefore, before anything else occurs, and before someone else tries to steal you away. Yes, she muttered. Indeed, Thomas gave her a kiss. Then he became desperate, saying that he had been holding back for weeks before breaking. Both of them were breathing heavily when they separated. Thomas firmly stated, tomorrow. Go to town and get married tomorrow, then. I've had enough waiting. Grace broke down in tears inside the house. Together they visited her. Everything except name, including the family. But even that would be different tomorrow. Dawn arrived with clarity and coldness. Before dawn, Thomas hitched the wagon. With Grace cradled in her arms, Nora sat next to him. Nervous? He inquired. He held her hand and said, terrified, me too. As the church bells rung for the Sunday service, they rode into town. The streets were crowded. Following the morning sermon, people gathered in the square, all dressed in their Sunday best. In front of the courthouse, Thomas's wagon came to a halt. Discussions ended. People's heads turned. The obese widow and the irate rancher. Whispers spread like wildfire among them. With a firm grasp on Nora's back, Thomas assisted her in falling. They made their way to the steps of the courthouse, where the circuit judge met on weekends. The crowd broke up, gazing at one another. Then there was a voice. Hayes Thomas. Sheriff Patterson shoved his way through the throng. Beside him was the matron of the boarding home. Thomas slowly turned. Sheriff, Mrs. Henderson lodged a grievance. Claims that Miss Nora is being held against her will by you, living a sinful life. Hungry for controversy, the audience drew nearer. The calmness of Thomas's voice was perilous. Nora chose to be there. It doesn't matter. It is against town ordinance for unmarried persons to live together. I'll enforce the complaint if you don't marry her now. Thomas looked across at Nora. In any case, that was the plan. Her heart was racing as she nodded. Together, they ascended the stairs of the courthouse. Standing in the doorway was the judge. Do you wish to get married right away? No, Thomas stated forcefully. The matron stammered, this is ridiculous, a forced union. Nora turned to face the gathering and stated emphatically, nobody's forcing me. I go with him. Thomas turned to face everyone and put his arm around Nora as he withdrew. She is now my spouse. Does anyone have a legal issue with that? Quiet. The matron then said something. This doesn't alter who she is. With caution, Thomas interrupted her, his voice lethal. You're referring to my spouse. Mrs. Henderson's expression darkened. The town is aware that she ensnared you. When all of you rejected, she came to my daughter's rescue. Thomas's voice echoed. My ranch was saved by her. When I wanted to pass away from grief, she came to my rescue. He drew Nora in. She is in my home, my life, and my heart, and I am incredibly proud of that. A girl from the boarding house yelled. This is something you'll regret. Thomas gazed at her. You'll never understand what it's like to be loved the way I love my wife, which is the only thing I regret. He looked across to the sheriff. Are we finished? Patterson gave a nod. You have a spouse. The complaint was rejected. Thomas assisted Nora in getting onto the wagon. He halted again as they were about to depart, standing in the seat for everyone to see. Furthermore, I'm insulted by anyone who disparages my wife. My family is at risk from anyone who threatens her. I defend my family, and his voice remained silent. Keep it in mind. He then took off in his car. It was a calm ride home. Norris was covered by Thomas's hand. Mrs. Hayes, he murmured. She gave him a look. What? I just wanted to express it. Despite her tears, she grinned. That seems good to me. Everything at the ranch was painted gold as the sun began to set. After lifting Nora to the ground, Thomas removed Grace from her arms. As they stood on the porch, they saw the shifting hues of the sky. He said, Are you happy? Nora gave him a look. This grief-stricken man had rediscovered love and had chosen her against the world's opinion that she wasn't worthy. I'm pleased with this. Thomas pulled Nora in and moved Grace to one arm. Excellent, because I intend to ensure that you remain that way for the remainder of my life. Grace stirred. She is stunning. Like her mother, Nora whispered. Thomas gave Nora a forehead kiss, the two of them. The fire was roaring, dinner was ready, and the home was warm. It flourished outside the ranch. Two shattered individuals have discovered wholeness in one another. A dying infant had been given new life. A man who had been furious had found calm. A humiliated lady had discovered value. They had created something that the town could not demolish. A household. They sat gracefully on the porch as the stars came out. Thomas grasped Nora's hand. "We rescued one another." Nora leaned in close to him. "Yes, we did." As night fell, they sat silently. Two individuals who were deemed insufficient by the world found each other and realized they were.